Hello, everyone. This is Chris Assis, and today we have another exercise for the giros. But it's not really just an exercise for the giros. It's an exercise to help us better understand the side step and how can this step become a transition step. And if we can even take it outside the tango world, we can see that any step, any time that we find ourselves changing one from one position to another, there is an opportunity to change further. So you can add pivots, you can change your direction, readjust your direction. Um, there as two examples. So there are different ways that you can apply and explore further these elements that we're going to discuss today. But we're going to focus on the Giro step for them. I'm going to start without shoes. I would suggest that you do the same. It will be a little bit easier. And then for the tango part of this, I will change into heels. You don't have to follow the same strategy. You can do whatever you feels more comfortable for you. Just make sure that you are uh, in an attire that allows you to explore with ease. So, with no further ado, here we go. Okay, so we're going to get started by taking a normal size side step, not too big, not keeping our feet together, just a normal size step. And I want you to just start pivoting around the ball of the foot. So you would have to, let me change here a little bit. You would have to bend the knees a little bit so your heels are um, caressing the floor. So you're not over your heels. And by doing that, your pelvis is going to go and fall slightly backwards, and your upper body is going to fall slightly forward, just a little bit. And you start to pivot around the ball of the foot. So you can try to keep everything nice and tight like this. But that you'll notice that creates a lot of extra engagement around the center. And if you try to move from here, it would be very awkward. So instead of that, we're going to just pivot and we're going to let that different parts of the body move in other direction. So we're going to focus more around the rotation on the vertical axis, around the vertical axis, but we're not going to block any movements that are happening around other axes. So we will notice that our hips are balancing, they're playing this little game of going up and down like this. And that is matched by the shoulders. I'm sliding off here. And then also don't forget about the neck and the head, where we very commonly hold stress, but allow for the neck and the head to adjust. And you can go slow and don't make the pivot too big right now, just small, doesn't have to be super big. And notice that the head also goes from side to side in this way. And there's also, I'm just going to turn a little bit so you can see, there's also a little bit of a wave along the sagittal. So it's not this, basically. Okay, now from here, you can make your decision whether you want to move towards where your heels are pointing or where your toes are pointing. And step. And commit to it before you finish the rotation. Commit to it before you finish the rotation. Then turn this way so you can see me a little bit better. I'm turning. I'm not going to wait to finish here and then start over. I'm going to find the opportune moment if I allow for this game of unevenness to come to my benefit. I can use it to propel myself into the next step, like so. Similarly, if I'm going where my heels are pointing, right? Let's do a couple of them. Let's go towards where our toes are pointing. Where our toes are pointing. One more time, toes. And toes. And now let's go towards, let's turn and go where our heels are pointing. But again, I'm not gonna stop here and then start again. Find the opportune moment, take a moment to feel how your hips are moving as you're creating that rotation, and then use that to your benefit to step and feed that next step. Feed that next step. There we go. And step. Good. Turn and step. Okay, so I wanted you to see what's happening a little bit closer up as we go into our step. And you'll see what I mean when I'm saying that our hips are not turning and staying parallel to the floor, but they're turning, and depending on where you decide to go, they will adjust so you can balance the pelvis over one point and step. So let's try to imagine how you would be balancing an irregular ball, which is the shape of our pelvis, over an irregular shaped bone, which is the femur. So find a way where you feel that all the energy is balanced through this joint and is easy for you to build energy here and step. Let me not step away from you. Let's do it one more time, going to where the toes are pointing. And notice also that this is matched, the whole spine is engaging into this, and you can even see how my arms are adjusting. We'll go in the upper body in just a bit. Now, if I go to where to follow my heels, a similar action is required because again, I need to balance an irregular ball over an irregularly shaped bone. And then feel that the free leg and the free hip and generally the free side of the body still has energy and freedom in the movement. Look also what happens in the arms. You have to think about how the arms move, how even the hands move, and reflect the movement of the rib cage and correspond with the position and the placement of the scapula, so you don't move like this and then start creating trouble in the shoulders. So it's the whole upper body that is participating in this movement. So try not to disconnect one from the other. Okay, so one more time. Let's take a normal size side step. Start pivoting. Let's go to where our toes are pointing and notice the choice, the timing of the choice that you're making. Also notice that this is captured through the whole body, from head to toe, and from one hand all the way over to the other. And now let's go to where our heels are pointing. To where our heels are pointing. Noticing how we balance the hips over one irregular shaped bone. And step. Okay, now more tango version of this exercise. Here we go. A side step. You don't finish the side step in a linear way, feed the turn and then pivot. Instead, what you do, try to do for the purposes of this exercise, is you start going, and as you go past the middle, you want to create the opportunity to start pivoting. And step. And here too. And step. Keep it small, and you can work with a partner, with an artificial partner if you need to. So let's go over to the other side again. Don't zero in. Instead, as you're going, see if you can start feeding yourself the pivot. Step. Feed yourself the pivot. Step. Let's do the same thing, going in the opposite direction, meaning with back ochos. So you know that what's coming afterwards is a back ocho. Don't go square. Incorporate that intention in your step. Over to the other side. And now let's mix and match. So we're going one pivot to the front, and one pivot to the back. One pivot to the front, one pivot to the back. One more time. One pivot to the front, one pivot to the back. One pivot to the front, one to the back. Instead of going square, creating the dissociation here and then stepping either forward or backwards, we want to take advantage of that side step and create the transition right in there and step. Or if you're going to the back, now how can we put it in a giro? Of course, you probably guessed it right. Let's start with our right foot at the front, left leg is free. And we go back. See the transition also here. You're not going straight to the back anymore. You're going to transition to a side step. You're going to transition to a front step. And here we go. Feed the pivot once, and you have 3 pivots. And side, and pause over the left foot. Left foot has a weight, right is free. Imagine your partner is always next to the leg you have the weight on. Back, side, front, and now you feed the pivot once, you have 3 turns. 3 turns, meaning you don't stop in the middle. I would like to take a moment and take you down to the foot level so you can see what I mean by 3 pivots instead of 1 and then feed the pivot again and start over. We're going back, we're transitioning to side, you're going front, and now this is where you feed, you lead yourself into the pivot, into the turn. You won't square off here, collect, and lead yourself again to go into the back ocho, so meaning 2 leads, 2 pivots. Instead, we're going to go back, side, front, and with 1 lead, we're going to do 3 pivots. Let's see this one again. 1 lead, we have pivot 1, which is the obvious one. Pivot 2, adjusting over the side step. Pivot 3 into the back ocho. Continuously, we have 1 lead, 3 pivots.